So OutKast was some pretty interesting sessions, not from Dre 3000 or Big Boy's perspective. Like they really came to, they was always focused, and like I think they understood like they were under budgetary constraints and time was money. I mean, the Dungeon family would be deep. And so there'd be various studios they would have to book out. Again, Ian Burke, I think he was one of their managers along with Dee Dee. And Dee Dee was super sweet, always super sweet. But Organized Noise, you had Ray, you had Ricco, you had Ricco Wade. I'm Ricco Lumpkins. Ricciano, by the way, Reek. So we always have something to say about that. But we always fight over who's the real Ricco of Atlanta. I'll bow down because he's a Atlanta native, but nonetheless, so it was always kind of interesting sessions with them because they would roll super deep, like 30 people in the crew, because the Dungeon family not only consisted of, of course, Organized Noise, but you had OutKast, you had Goody Mob, you had Parental Advisory, which was KP and his crew, and guys like Big Rube and Lil Will and forgive me on any artist that I may have missed, but they ran deep, right? Now, the way they would do it is because they was under LaFace Records. They had the budget. They had major budget to where they could book out multiple rooms in Atlanta. So you had DARP, which was Dallas Austin studio, now owned by Future. You had Silent Sound, which is T.I.'s. Now he owns it, but it used to be Daryl Simmons. You had Bosstown, which was the stomping ground for basically any and everything Organized Noise did. Bobby Brown's studio, but now OutKast owns it. So that came full circle. You had Doppler, you had Purple Dragon, La Coco, you had Patchwork came a little bit later, but Patchwork, and then Zach Audio came later too. And of course, they would still work out of the house in the Dungeon. Nonetheless, they would book out all these studios. And because the engineering crew was so deep as well, you had Alvin, you had Neil Pogue, you had Leslie, you had me, you had Carlton, you had the Fry brothers, you had Bernowski Wall, you had Shy Boy, you had Mark Hawley, Carl Glover. We just had, excuse me if I forget anybody, but we had a crew that was able to get any session at any time, and they were 24 hours a day, so it was constant go. But one thing I can say out of that, I seen the genius of Andre 3000, and I seen the genius of CeeLo early, super early. Big Rube was also, and Pat they was always writing. So, and then they would bring Marquez, through sessions, and that's how Waterfalls got written. Yeah, it was quite the journey with them, and I worked with them on Aquemini and AT Aliens. Rosa Parks, Skew It on the Barbie, Me and You, Joe Mama and Your Cousin Too, Elevators. I tracked that one and was an assistant mix engineer on that. And seems like there was something else, a couple other songs that I worked on, some interludes, that kind of thing. I think it was Big Rube did a poem. Yeah, so shout out to OutKast. Those were some sessions that I will never forget.